Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Everyday Love. I am joined today by someone who's very important to our family and one of the animal members of our family. This is Dr. Melissa Magnuson, um, owner of Greenland Veterinary Hospital and I think other establishments as well. Where our guinea pig Spice, who many of you know as being the official guinea pig spokesman for Everyday Love, spokes guinea. Um, it's where she gets her nails clipped and she gets her wellness and all of that. So um, thank you, Melissa, for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. And thank you for having a guinea pig that you take to the veterinarian. That is so important to us because guinea pigs deserve just as much care as any dog or cat or any other species.
Yeah, I love when you're in the waiting room at Greenland. There's all these photos on the wall of, I assume if they're actual staff members with their actual pets. Am I
You
right?
got it. Yep.
It's there's these very professional, beautiful shots of staff members with dogs and cats and everything, down to someone's got an iguana, I think, and
Yes.
there's some, and again, just I remember it's a man, and the loving eyes he has for that iguana is just so beautiful, so fun. Um, but I wanted you to come on today because I've really become a fan of your work on Substack and the videos and the articles you post on there. Um, and so I just wanted to know sort of how you came to all this, how you came to veterinary medicine, how you came to your specific worldview of it, which I'll just summarize quickly and then we can jump off, which is something that you wrote, which is, I want to get it right, a series about the lessons that emerge when we stop focusing on what makes us different and start paying attention to what makes us the same. And I love that. That sort of fits myself and my wife and our worldview of animals and pets and all of that. So, um, how did this all start? How did you come to veterinary medicine?
So I have one of those stories that started when I was very, very young. I grew up on a farm in southern Minnesota, 25 miles from the any civilization. That's what I said, but it was actually very, very true. And there weren't a lot of people that came to the farm. We had the milkman that came to the farm and we had the veterinarian. And I was quite enamored with the veterinarian because he would let me hold a penicillin bottle or help him do a procedure. We had pigs and cattle, and he just I fell in love with his profession and his truck that came out, and it was amazing. And I had quite a love for animals. I was outside in the barns with, we had cats, we had dogs, and I befriended any animal that I could possibly befriend. And they grew up with me and they taught me lots of lessons because I had friends at school, but I didn't spend a lot of time at school except for school because we were 25 miles from my school.
Mm.
So we didn't go there often. Just the bus picked me up and brought me home, and then I was home. So that's where I built my love of animals. And from a very young age, I always wanted to be a veterinarian.
Wow. And so, when did the questions that you raise in your Substack, which are about what makes us the same, animals and people, when did that start occurring to you?
So, believe it or not, it started when I had children myself. So, I became a veterinarian first and married my husband, and I was that person that never wanted to have children, and then all of a sudden in my young 30s I was like, okay, I want to have kids. And then I had my first baby, and I was a mess, a complete mess. And I didn't know what to do with this thing because it didn't come with any instructions. And my mother was living in Minnesota. I was living here. I didn't have a lot of extra help in this, and I just didn't know what to do with her. And she was a lovely baby. It was just like my world had really turned was turned upside down, and I didn't know what to do. And so, honest to God, what I said to myself, I was like, Melissa, you need to get it together. Like, you need to, like, you're a mom now. You need to pull it together. You need to do that. You decided to have a baby. You need to figure this out. So the only thing I knew is I said, okay, well, if it were a pet, what would I do? How would I handle this situation? And lo and behold, that was the key to how I raised my children. If I didn't know what to do, I'd say, okay, if it were an animal, what would I do?
Mm.
And that really made a difference for me because I have a lot of compassion for animals. And it wasn't that I didn't love my children, I love my children dearly, but they do things that are wildly unacceptable sometimes. And you don't know how to react and you have to kind of pull it together. And I would pull from what I learned from animals, because animals never really would upset me or push my buttons or hit my triggers. That would never happen. And so that's kind of where it all started. My lessons across species was, what I learned from my children and how I applied raising animals to raising
Mm.
them.
Mm. What brought you? So you grew up in Minnesota. What brought you to the New Hampshire seacoast?
I did an internship in Boston. So I graduated from vet school and I chose an internship in Boston and then met my husband from here. And then we were living in Boston. I wasn't doing so well. I'm a farm girl. And so living in the city was a little tricky for me. I was always going the wrong way on the Mass Pike. That cost a lot of money to get on and off multiple
You
times.
will.
Six was my record of
Oh my
getting
God.
on and off the Mass Pike trying to find my exit in Boston. It was a disaster. And so my husband and I agreed upon New Hampshire. And I was like, I can do these roads up here much easier.
So where in Boston did you live?
We actually lived in Newton by
Okay.
Newton Corner. Newton Corner is not a corner, it's a circle
Yeah.
with like 8 exits or something. Like, it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
really terrible.
I lived in Somerville for about 15 years before meeting my wife. That brought me to New Hampshire, actually. Um,
Okay.
and Yeah, I used to. I lived down there long enough that I used to be able to do all those kinds of roads and turns and weird circles, without thinking. And now when we go back down for any reason, artist is like, "So where should we go now?" I'm like, "I have no idea. I have no idea. It's all gone. All that knowledge is gone."
Yeah.
Um,
Mine never was there.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Um, and since being back here, I grew up in New Hampshire. Since coming back and living here for a while now, whenever I go back into Boston, it just feels so crowded, and it never did before. But now it's like, okay, that's too many people. Let's go home now. Um, uh, do you find the kind of inquiries that you're making, the kind of holistic philosophy you seem to have about the relationship between animals and people? Do you find that is that commonplace among veterinary medicine? Is that unusual?
So I think every veterinarian's a little bit different because, we're all different in that we all have a different story as to why we decide to do things and why we decide to embark on things. But I think as you go through this journey within vet medicine, you learn a lot of things. And the greatest teachers for me have been my clients and my patients. And as I've been learning, and this career it's been such a gift because of all that I've learned and all that I've, taken from the stories that people have shared with me. That's been my particular journey. I think I have a lot of new graduates that I mentor, and a lot of them are very surprised by the way that I think and the way that I approach medicine and the way that I do things, because it's not necessarily textbook. I involve a lot of common sense with it, because and I think that's why I connect with my clients so well, because I can kind of meet them where they're at. Medicine is complicated,
Mm.
and when you get into some of these complicated things, it becomes very overwhelming for owners. But if you can meet them on common ground, I think that's so important, because like when a client comes in to visit with me or brings me their animal, I can't do anything unless the client has buy-in with what I'm doing. And so if I can meet them where they're at and we can go from there, I think it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. So on that topic, um, your articles, your articles on Substack, they're clearly about animal care, but a lot of them also touch on owner care, owner wellness, and buy-in. How much of what you're doing Well, I guess how much of the mental and physical well-giving of the animals you see is about the mental and physical well-being and buy-in of the owners that you see?
So I think that's a big part of it. I mean, in order for us, in order for us to show up for our animals, we must show up for ourselves. And so this kind of brings me to emotional support animals. I think it's completely fine to have an emotional support animal as long as you realize that you yourself need to show up for yourself, because that animal can't do everything for you. It can't be everything for you. Maybe on certain days it can be helpful, but really showing up for yourself is what, that's a gift to your animal, that you can show up for yourself, they can show up, and then you can show up together. And I think that's really important because we see a lot of disease that is created by stress. And stress can be defined by a lot of different things, whether it's, working too much, or, having a lot of emotional baggage, or, just stress is everywhere. But it's, how does it affect you? Because it really affects our cells, it affects who we are, and it affects our disease processes. And one of the things in my book that I talk about is a lot of animals and people share the same diseases. And it's been fascinating to me to see this, and the things that are uh, definitely noticeable in ecosystem are is the energy that's there, and the energy that you bring to a relationship, the energy that someone else brings to a relationship, and the energy that your pet brings. And pets are very present. They're very in the moment. They're very loving. I mean, they're not like us at all. I mean, we overthink. we we do a lot of things that, we make up crazy stories. I don't think the animals are making up crazy stories. They're just being in that moment. And I think that's why we're so drawn to them, because they can be so present, and they can come with no judgment and no extra baggage, and that's why we're so attracted to them.
Mm. Um, on that topic of um, putting a lot on an animal as a support animal, for example, um, I have a lot of different people in my life who have a lot of different opinions on this idea of treating your pets as your kids and putting a similar emotional, I don't want to say baggage, but emotional um, scenario on your pets as kids. And I've heard people say all different kinds of things about how wonderful it is for them. And some people are very against it. And they're like, look, this is my dog, love him very much. He's not my son, that kind of thing. Um, where do you find, where do you fall on that personally? And do you find that as a factor at all in how, in the care you need to provide or the conversations you need to have?
So this kind of brings me back to meeting people where they're at, because so if you are a pet owner who's never had a child, you don't know what it's like to have a child. You only know what it's like to have that pet, and your love for that pet. And people will say, this is like my child. And I try not to. I don't bring a lot of judgment to when people come in, because everybody has a pet for a different reason, and everybody sees their pet in a different way. And so though there are people who say, this pet is my child, I would do anything for it, we need to fix it, we need to do that, great, I will definitely meet you where you're at, and we will try to do everything possible, and I get it. But then there's also the people that are like, it's a dog or it's a cat, I'm not gonna spend that much money, or I'm not gonna do that. And I'm like, okay, let's meet you where you're at, because we are all different, and that's okay. And that's actually a good thing, because I can't imagine hanging out with myself all day long every day. I'd probably drive myself crazy. And so having variety in life is a good thing. And and it's okay to, you know eh, and this is one of the things I talk about in my book too, is the connection that you have with your pet, the connection that I have with my pets is different with each one of the pets, because I have multiple.
Hmm.
And the connection that you have with your guinea pig is different than my connection that I had with my guinea pig,
Hmm.
because I truly believe, and this people may get a little bit like, oh, that's a little crazy, but I believe this truly is that pets come into our lives for a reason, and our pets actually pick us. We do not pick our pets, and they are there to teach us lessons. And if your pet keeps doing something over and over and over and over again that drives you crazy, pay attention. That's a lesson you need to learn, because it's super important, because these are all these little ways that the universe works to help you improve yourself as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's great. We have a similar philosophy. Myself, my wife, and I have a similar philosophy in terms of the pets that we have had, and um, my wife's history with pets is a lot more robust than mine. I We grew up with, we had something, we had rabbits, we had birds, and then, like, as I was in my last year of high school, we got a dog, which I was not thrilled with. I must say, I was not. I'm much more of a dog person now, but I was not then at all. And so it was really for my sister, who really, really wanted one. And by the time I left for college, I was much more accepting of the dog's affections. Um, but my wife has had cats mainly, and had dogs growing up, but cats in her life, in such deep, robust ways that I've never really encountered myself personally. And so it really, and it feels like the pets that have come into our lives have been at very key moments. Um, and in my book, Everyday Love, I spend more time than I remember spending, when I look back on it now, writing about the death of our cat during COVID. We have a different cat now. Our cat Mia passed away during COVID, and the effect it had on me was quite striking and surprising, because I didn't expect it to be that powerful to me. So during that time, I needed that. I needed that ability to grieve and release and all of that. Um, on the subject of grief, though, while I bring it up, um, I imagine that one of the things you need to do is to counsel people when their pets are, have passed away or on that path, and clearly on that path, and there's no stopping it. Um, is grief counseling something that is part of veterinary training? Is this something you've had to adopt? How does that factor into it?
So when I went to vet school, no, it was not a part of veterinary training, and they probably it's entire. I mean, that was 30 years ago for me, and but they may have added it. I think it's a great idea to add it. It is a big part of our job, and being there and holding space for people when an animal passes, it's an important thing. And what I've noticed is I've traveled all over the world, and I've witnessed death in many different cultures, and in the United States, we're not very good with death as a general rule. It's difficult for us to grieve, and I don't think we necessarily really know how to do it that well, unless you actually grew up with a lot of death. And that's not always a great thing to have to experience. I actually did grow up with a lot of death around me. I came from a huge family where there were always people passing away, because we had, I had over, I think I had 150 cousins. I mean, it's
Oh,
crazy.
geez.
Just really big families.
Yeah.
And so we went to funerals a lot. And I learned to see, how people grieved, and I would watch that and listen and pay attention. And then there were a lot of animals that died on our farm, and my father thought I was a little crazy, but I had a funeral because I was young and I'd gone to funerals of the people that had died in our families. I knew that what a funeral was, so I would have funerals for all of these animals.
Mm.
And so I learned to let go, but also to be emotional, that it's completely fine to break down and be emotional, because it is hard. It's hard to be with an animal for this long and have that connection, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And that's a really tough thing for a lot of people. So it is important to hold the space for the people going through that and grieving through that. We at our hospitals, we try to make that experience as thoughtful and, supported as we can, because we know how difficult it is.
Yeah, yeah. Um, on that topic, this is something that I've always wondered about a bit. Is um, we when we bring pets into our lives, the majority of which, and there are some exceptions, there are some animals that have quite a longevity, whether it's turtles or certain kinds of parrots or things like that. Um, but most animals that we're going to have in our lives, cats, dogs, guinea pigs, rabbits, what have you, their lifespans are a lot shorter. They're almost certainly going to pass away during our lifetime. Um, I I'm not sure exactly what my question is, other than just why. And so in doing so, we are bringing into our lives great happiness, but also we're building in a certain amount of loss that we're just going to have to handle, um, probably right over and over. Because if you're a dog owner and you have a dog and they pass away, you might get another one, and go through that whole cycle again. Why do we do this to ourselves? I mean, we obviously love these animals, but I mean, I've always wondered why we're accepting of that kind of, maybe we just are in denial each time. But I'm curious, because you've had pets, you have pets now, that's part of your life too. um, why do you think we continue to come back to that?
Well, I do think we easily forget. I mean, I had my first baby and then I had two more. So, and so I think we do forget. But the other part of that is so because I've heard so many. I sit with owners all the time whose pets are passing in their arms, and I would say probably 80% of the time they say, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing this again. But one of the things we have to remember is that if we never experienced grief, if we never experienced loss, then we're not going to ever know what joy is and what having somebody is. Those kind of yin and yang and black and white and those kinds of things are where we learn and where we grow. And so when we're joyful, when we actually have joy, that is, we know it's joy and we're happy and we want to be there, and this pet brings us so much happiness. If we don't know the opposite of happiness, like we're not even going to know happiness. That's the thing. So I think these are all lessons. They're just all lessons that we need to learn and grow through. And it kind of brings me back to veterinary medicine itself. I tell my new graduates all the time, this is a practice. We are practicing every day. And it's World Cup season, and I talk about the soccer people. Those gentlemen who are on the field did not show up yesterday amazing. They have been playing probably, since they were 2 or 3 years old. Think about the practice that these people have had, you know and they've missed a lot of goals, and they captured a lot of goals and all these things, and they've had their super high highs and they've had their super low lows, and you become to appreciate those times through that journey. And that's what life is a lot of, and that's how we all grow, is having these journeys filled with our ups and downs. And if we don't have the ups and downs, then we can't appreciate the other part of it.
That's really, yeah. Well, that is an explanation that I really appreciate. uh, um, and it very much fits in with life in general, like the disappointments and loss that makes everything else, makes the highs even higher. It can, so. um, you said you have pets currently.
Mhm.
What is your current roster at home?
My current roster at my house is, I have one Chihuahua who's 16.
Oh,
And then I have three of my own cats, and my daughter temporarily moved home and she has two cats. We have five cats right now. And that's exciting because they don't all get along. So it's an adventure every day.
yeah.
But this is probably the lowest I've ever been with pets.
Oh,
And so, yeah, during COVID, we lost a lot during COVID as well. But I've had bearded dragons, chameleons, guinea pigs. Oh, I'm probably hamsters, lots of hamsters, lots of gerbils. My kids let the gerbils go inside. So not my current veterinary practice, but my former veterinary practice. I had gerbils there. My kids let them all go. They were free ranging for quite some time. That was fun.
oh my God.
And so I've
In
got
the
a lot of pets.
around
What was that?
in the practice itself, they were running around.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Running around. We had to find him. It was fun.
that's exciting.
It was exciting.
Wow, wow. Um, what is so you? How many kids do you have?
I have three. I have three daughters, but all grown now. They're in their young 20s.
Gotcha. And so, but one of the daughters moved home, and so the two factions of cats aren't don't necessarily get along.
No, no. My cats were not very appreciative of one of her cats coming in. So she's she's a very friendly cat. I think she's just too friendly for my cats. My cats are a little bit standoffish and are like, yeah, I don't want to be so friendly with you. Get out.
Yeah. Wow, that's funny. Do you have plans to write another book or something else like that?
I actually I do. I do. I have it. It's all up here right now. But I do have plans to write another one. I think I need to um, work on finding a bit of time to sit down and do that.
Okay.
But I do. I do plan on writing another book.
Okay. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Well, we want to see it. Um, and one thing I like to ask people who come on the show is the idea of the show is people using creativity to navigate challenging times. Um, what does that phrase mean to you? How does creativity come come in your life to help you through challenging times?
Well, I love that question actually because you know, I anytime I've really had adversity and anytime that I've really struggled, I have sat quietly. That is my number one place I go to is to sit quietly, be by myself. And I find that that's when that creative solution comes to me. And usually it's not what I ever expected.
Hmm.
And that information, and it's sometimes a little bit out there, but I have found that it's very valuable.
So have you had to do that recently for any reason?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Oh,
Um, I have had some I'm trying to think of probably in my professional life where, if I can't figure something out or I'm trying to work on a case and that kind of a thing, what I'll do is usually if I do something else or that answer is in my professional life usually comes to me through maybe another client
hmm,
or maybe another case or something like that. Just yesterday I was working on a case of a bunch of little ducklings that had died. It was really tragic and we thought it was an infectious disease, and I was researching everything and really trying to figure out what was going on. And I had called the pathologist that had worked on the case a little bit and talked with him. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you called." He said, because I had sent some samples and I got to go check on those samples. I had sent them out and I got to see if that is, if I have the answers there. Well, I had thought to call this pathologist just because I didn't know where to go with the case. And I didn't know that he had any of these samples pending. Well, he called me last night out of the blue and was like, "We have a diagnosis." And it was really cool because this pathologist, I wasn't working with this pathologist directly. The owner had gone to somebody else, and I just decided on a whim to call him because I just didn't know what to do. Had I not done that, I would have never got this diagnosis for this woman.
wow.
And it was a really important diagnosis. And so I just think sometimes, when those little things come into your head, And you might think it's a little crazy or whatever, like calling the pathologist that was working on the case but wasn't working with me. It's okay.
That's wow. That's amazing. Well, that is a great way to wrap up today. Dr. Melissa Magnuson, veterinarian to the stars. Um, thank you so much for coming on today. The Substack is The Conscious Vet, which is part of co-hosting today. The book is Animality. Where can people find this?
I'm on Amazon.
Okay, great. And where else, if people want to find you on Substack or social media or wherever, how do they find you?
Yeah, I'm on the Substack, The Conscious Vet, and I'm also on Facebook, and so you can go check it out either place. And it's just under The Conscious Vet, and you'll find all my writings and all the stuff that's going on in my brain on a daily basis.
Excellent. Thank you again, Melissa. Really appreciate this, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Adam.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.